Melodic metalcore is a metal genre that was popular in the early 2000s. It is definitively what I think of when I hear the term metalcore. However, it is distinct from what metalcore means today, and from what it meant back in the 90s. That 90s metalcore sound is sometimes referred to as metallic hardcore. If you take that metallic hardcore sound and blend it with melodic death metal, you get melodic metalcore. However, melodic metalcore has one key feature that distinguishes it from both of its parent genres, and that feature is that clean vocals are often employed. Not always, mind you. There are cases of melodic metalcore bands that do not contain clean vocals, but these are few and far between. So the two main things that distinguish melodic metalcore from melodic death metal are the varied vocals and the use of breakdowns. 90s metalcore lacked the melody and clean vocals and primarily focused on aggression and breakdowns, while today's metalcore is much softer and has lost the melodic death metal influence. I just want to establish the exact type of metalcore I'm referring to so I don't get comments that I missed Bad Omens or All Out War. Number 10, Shadows Are Security by As I Lay Dying. This is a good example of straight up melodic metalcore. There isn't too much deviation from the formula here. In fact, I overlooked As I Lay Dying for the longest time because when I first listened to them, I felt like I had already heard this exact sound a dozen times. However, now that the heyday of this genre was 20 years ago, and this sound is no longer oversaturated, but in fact quite rare, this scratches that itch for me. The Darkest Nights is the highlight. A pretty standard release for the genre, which is why it's only number 10, but I'll give it some points for originality because the album ends with a mathcore inspired track. Number 9, We Stitch These Wounds by Black Veil Brides. Now I know, based off this band's imagery and whatnot, many dismiss this as emo girl music. And yeah, that is true, but it's still good music regardless. It's hard to call this anything other than melodic metalcore, yet it still manages to have its own sound. Maybe it's a bit softer than the genre usually is, a little bit glam metal influenced even, but it's solid. I think more old school metalheads might actually like this one more than the others on the list, if only for the emphasis on the guitar work. There's also a couple corny ballads on here, so I would say that this is the most accessible album on the list. My favorite track is Heaven's Calling. Number 8. Scream, Aim, Fire by Bullet for My Valentine. Much like Black Veil Brides, I think image hurts this band's reputation more than anything. Mostly the fact that the band name is pretty emo. Though the same boomers who would make fun of this probably love Guns N' Roses, which is a pretty similar band name if you think about it, so go figure. This is another band that has a bit of a nostalgic 80s vibe, this time influenced by melodic thrash metal. It is very much inspired by Metallica. Right now it's till anxiety. On the top, you Not just sound-wise either, but even lyrically too, with the title track having a war theme similar to a song like Disposable Heroes. Waking the Demon is the highlight. Amazing tune. Number 7, For Aeons Past by Solution 45. This one may not be considered a metalcore record. I can see people saying it's more like a mix of melodic death metal, power metal, and prog metal. But in my opinion, it fits all my criteria for melodic metalcore, so I'm going to include it. I love this record, and it's highly underrated. I like to include variety on these lists, and I don't think this is too outlandish of a pick. Gravitational Lensing is a banger. There's also a great ballad track for something different. The cover art is beautiful, and this takes you to the place on the cover. I'll put this low on the list since it's not super metalcore, but this might be in my top 3 for general listening. Number 6, Unto the Locust by Machine Head. Another one on the more metal side of the melodic metalcore spectrum, Unto the Locust blends the style with groove metal and melodic thrash metal. This one will be more appealing to more traditional metalheads who like bands like Metallica and Pantera. Mix those two with some metalcore and you get this record. I have been vocal about my disdain for their releases 2018 and onward, but I can't bring myself to hate or dismiss this album. I still love it. Once again, a great ballad track to boot.
But I'm just a broken man, so cries out to understand.
I know a lot of people hate Machine Head, and I'm sort of one of them, but this record is lightning in a bottle to me personally. Number 5, The End of Heartache by Killswitch Engage. Now we're back to standard melodic metalcore. This is one of those genre-defining releases. Lots of breakdowns, lots of melodies, and all the tracks slap. I'm sure many would place it at number 1, and that's fair. It is a great record. It does have a certain amount of cheese to it, though. That said, metalcore is sort of metal's romance genre, so if you think love songs are lame, you probably won't like any metalcore in general. It certainly does not stop me from enjoying it, however. It's just devotion in music form. This still goes pretty hard. Number 4, Shogun by Trivium. Trivium is a pretty well-known metalcore band, but in my opinion, this is leagues above their other material. Once again, there's some older metal influence, some melodic thrash metal, and maybe even a bit of power metal. But first and foremost, it's a metalcore album, just a really good one. Some lengthy tracks as well. It breaks away from some of the more cookie-cutter formula of the genre. Number 3, Eye of Providence by The Agonist. Some metalcore fans may know The Agonist from their earlier material with Alyssa Whiteglass on vocals, who is now an arch enemy. But I must say, my personal preference is the later Vicky era. While the early stuff may be closer to pure melodic metalcore on Once Only Imagined, Eye of Providence leans more into prog metal and melodic death metal. I feel that this latter era of the band is quite underrated. I have a whole video on The Agonist if you'd like to hear me simp for Vicky some more. But as for Eye of Providence, it's like Opeth meets metalcore. Number 2, The Fall of Ideals by All That Remains. This is the definitive melodic metalcore record, and I'm sure everyone was expecting it to be number 1. It is what you could consider cookie-cutter metalcore, but it excels so well with the formula that I'm not bothered by that fact in the slightest. This Calling is a solid opener. The Weak-Willed is a heavier track with an almost death metal quality to it. Most of the tracks are memorable. There's a reason I use The Fall of Ideals as the poster boy for the genre. Number 1, Waking the Fallen by Avenged Sevenfold. With the exception of Unholy Confessions, which has the classic riff, Waking the Fallen is far from cookie-cutter metalcore. Most of the tracks are quite lengthy. The tune, Eternal Rest, opens with a guitar solo, which is odd. And this record brings you on an adventure all over the place, from chunky Pantera-type riffs to something reminiscent of gothic metal. And I love how the end of the album sounds like it's glitching out and unraveling before your ears. Avenged Sevenfold's later albums went in a more hard rock direction, and while that metal and roll sound is somewhat present on Waking the Fallen, this is one Avenged Sevenfold record that I feel comfortable calling straight up melodic metalcore. While I enjoy their other material, Waking the Fallen is something truly special, to the point that I'd call it the best metalcore record. Our acculturation continues.